I attended that vigil last night in which people were expressing their anger, their sadness, their frustration that this happened again to school children in a place that was supposed to be safe.
Not one more child, not one more faith community, not one more school.
During a candlelight vigil Wednesday evening, local leaders, parents, and children came together to grieve.
Completely numb, heartbroken. This can't keep happening.
Police said 2 students, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, were shot and killed in the church pews during Mass on the 3rd day of the new school year. 17 others were injured, including 14 children and 3 senior parishioners in their 80s.
All of the remaining victims are expected to survive. There is a range of injuries, however.
Even those who weren't hit by bullets bear emotional scars that run deep.
I was on my deck. I heard the shots.
WCCO's Jonah Kaplan spoke to Anders Holin, a father of 2 young girls at the school. He says he raced to the scene after hearing the gunfire.
I pulled into the parking lot. The shots were still going off. I saw a dad who works at the school, and I said, "Is the school locked down?" And he said, "There's a shooting at the church." And he said, "And all the kids are in there." And I just felt like I was going to throw up.
Amid the chaos, Holin eventually found his daughters alive. He says he feels a sense of rage about what happened.
I just want to show that my girls can be feeling whatever they feel. They're in a safe place in the basement watching a movie with friends, and that's where I want them. I want them in a safe place.
Listen to June, a 4th grader who was inside with her 1st grade sister when the bullet started to tear through the glass.
I was scared about if I would get hurt. I was worried about everybody getting hurt and injured.
So you heard it. Someone grabbed you?
My teacher just jumped on the floor, and she kind of motioned for me to get down. And so then me and my buddy just followed her, and then she kind of grabbed my hand a little bit.
What was it like with your buddy holding your hand like that? How did that make you feel?
A little bit safer.
Just very surreal. It's hard to believe that that we're in reality right now. The feeling that I had searching was easily the worst feeling I've ever felt. I just needed to find you. I felt so much relief when I did.
Good evening, I'm John Dickerson. We now know the names, and we can now show you the faces of the 2 children killed in the Minneapolis shooting. Fletcher Merkel was 8 years old. Harper Moisky was 10. They were attending Wednesday morning Mass along with nearly 200 other Catholic school children at the Church of the Annunciation when a shooter opened fire through stained glass windows. Another child is in critical condition. One of the 15 children and 3 adults wounded. And the police say it could have been even worse because locked doors kept the shooter from entering the church. Maurice Dubois is in Minneapolis.
And John, we heard today from Fletcher Merkel's father, Jesse, about his family's unimaginable loss.
Please remember Fletcher for the person he was and not the act that ended his life. Give your kids an extra hug and kiss today. We love you, Fletcher. You'll always be with us.
Jesse Merkel said the hole in his family's heart will never heal. The police, meanwhile, said the shooter was obsessed with killing children as they gave us an update today on the investigation.
This drone video shot by CBS News shows stained glass windows riddled with bullet holes. Police say more than 100 rounds were fired in the ambush attack. Nearby, the shooter lay dead from a self-inflicted wound. Police tell CBS News that 23-year-old shooter visited the church weeks before the shooting, pretending to be coming back to the faith in order to create a detailed drawing of the church's layout. Investigators believe the shooter tried to enter the church during the attack, but the doors had been locked once Mass began. There were dozens of children inside at the time of the shooting.
Oh my gosh.
Among them was 10-year-old Astoria Safe, who had just started 5th grade.
I never thought that something like this would actually happen.
A bullet grazed her forehead, and a fragment remains lodged in her skull.
It's too dangerous to take out. The surgery is too dangerous, so it's going to be in my head for a while.
Does it hurt? Did it hurt?
Yeah. Well, it went so fast that like I didn't even really know what was happening. So it was just like, it was like hot. Like I felt like my head was like hot, and then while I was down, I was like praying while like the shots were firing, and I just like felt like my head, and then I just looked at it, and then my hand was like in blood.
Oh my gosh! What were you praying? What were you saying?
I was just saying like help us. Like I need your help. Like please, I want all my friends to be safe. Help me to be safe. Like it was just so scary.
Do you think that you can go back in there?
I don't know how I ever will. It was the most traumatizing thing that's ever happened to me. I don't know. It's going to be really hard to recover from that.
Yeah.
Brock Safe is Astoria's father.
It's like my daughter, I have no idea how she's still here. We're beyond thankful.
We also spoke with Dwayne Pesa and his 10-year-old twins, Alex and Livy, who were at the Mass during the attack.
We always practice for these, but I never really thought it was actually going to happen.
What do you do for practice?
Well, we don't even practice it in the church. We just practice it at school, right over there. And we usually just hide in the corner, but we had to hide under the pews for this.
You were in there yesterday? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now?
Sad.
What's making you the saddest right now?
My friend died.
Oh no. It's terrible. It's just awful.
You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, okay?
The unspeakable tragedy in this community will take time to heal. Today, Principal Matthew DeBoer visited some of his students at the hospital.
What'd you tell them?
I told them that I was there, and I held their kids' hands. And I told them that their parents loved them, that I loved them, and I gave them a kiss. And it was hard. But they deserved to know that someone was with their kids in that time when their lives were stolen from them. And, I'll never forget that.
Emotions running high tonight, and they will be for some time, no question about it. I'll be back, John, from Minneapolis a little bit later on in the broadcast. We'll send it back to you right now.
Maurice, I just wanted to ask you, the students are so extraordinary to hear them talk, but in watching the video, the teachers also, while this was taking place, so calm, so prepared.
That they were, and to hear the kids tell it, they practice these things in the classroom, not the church, right? And so in the church, it was a spontaneous reaction. And the principal there, he described to me running along the wall, the brick wall, as the bullets came in each bank of windows. He kept moving toward the last bank of windows. And if this guy came in, this shooter came in, he was ready to jump them and do whatever he could do. And so that was typical of what happened inside there. Those teachers, those faculty members, those staff, true heroes, John.
Yesterday, a coward decided to take our 8-year-old son Fletcher away from us. Because of their actions, we will never be allowed to hold him, talk to him, play with him, and watch him grow into the wonderful young man he was on the path to becoming. Fletcher loved his family, friends, fishing, cooking, and any sport that he was allowed to play. While the hole in our hearts and lives will never be filled, I hope that in time our family can find healing. I pray that the other victim's family can find some semblance of the same. I'm hopeful that all the wounded are able to make a full recovery and return home to their families. And finally, all the people, and especially the children, impacted by this horrific event are able to recover mentally and find strength to live loving, happy, and full lives. Over the past day, I've heard many stories accounting the swift and heroic actions of children and adults alike from inside the church. Without these people and their selfless actions, this could have been a tragedy of many magnitudes more. For these people, I am thankful. Moving forward, we ask not for your sympathy, but your empathy. As our family and the Annunciation community grieve and try to make sense of such a senseless act of violence. Please remember Fletcher for the person he was and not the act that ended his life. Give your kids an extra hug and kiss today. We love you, Fletcher. You'll always be with us.
Aaron Rupar's 2 children were at the school during the shooting. He joins us live now to talk more about this. Aaron, first and foremost, thank you for being here. And I know it's so difficult to talk about this. Your 2 children are home, correct? They're fine. I want to make that clear. But let's walk us through what happened yesterday when you dropped them off and then you heard what was going on.
Yeah, we just moved to the neighborhood, so it was their 3rd day at school yesterday, and we dropped them off. It was just a normal beginning to the day, and drove home. We lived about a mile away, and as soon as we got home, we heard dozens and dozens of sirens down in the area of the church. But even then, I didn't really think anything of it. My mind certainly didn't go to any sort of shooting incident at the school. And I was actually configuring my internet at home because we had just moved when I got a text from a friend saying, "Hey, have you heard what's going on at Annunciation?" He knew that my kids were going there. And so right away, my heart dropped, and my wife and I hopped in the car and drove down there, hopped out of it as quickly as we could. Fortunately, one of the first children we encountered was my son, who was being taken out of like a side entrance to the school, and he was unharmed. But then we had to wait for about an hour before we could confirm that our daughter was okay. And, that was probably the most harrowing hour of my life. And of course, being out in a parking lot with other parents who, were kind of hysterical, obviously worrying about their own kids. I don't wish that upon anyone. And we were so relieved when we discovered that my daughter was unhurt with her classmates in the school gym. But, my heart absolutely breaks for the families of those 2 children who will never be coming home.
Oh, absolutely. And you just moved to the area. This was a school that you chose for your children, and obviously probably the safest place in your mind for your 2 children to be that day. Let's talk about the emotions the day after. How are your kids and how are you handling all of this now and the community in general?
Yeah, as I look back on yesterday, I realized that I was in kind of a state of shock for most of the day. And today, I feel like I'm kind of processing things a little more rationally. Thankfully, the community here, just in our little neighborhood, has been amazing with people coming over and bringing food and just, checking in on us. And the community around the school has been amazing as well, just keeping parents in the loop. That's part of the thing that is so tragic about this is Annunciation is a South Minneapolis institution. One of our neighbors here, coincidentally, who was in his 80s, who I met yesterday, went to Annunciation, was telling us about his experiences and just how unthinkable this is. And that was part of the reason that we wanted our kids to go there, is that the staff there is amazing. It really has a reputation for being an excellent school. And it's just so tragic that these kids who were at mass, and adults who were there too, as part of the Annunciation community, had to go through something so horrible. And I know that we'll kind of rally together and get through this as best we can, but the sort of thing leaves scars that will never go away.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we learn more about the shooter, his messages and his background are pretty unthinkable. I can't even imagine. But I want to talk more about your children today. What sort of things are they saying, or are they opening up, or what happens in a child's mind, and how do you speak to them as a parent?
Yeah, we're kind of learning that on the fly because we've never had to, thankfully go through anything like this. They are 3 and 5. And, as I mentioned earlier, they were spared kind of the worst of this in that they didn't witness anybody getting hurt or anything like that. So, they've had some questions about kind of like what happened. Was there a bad person at school? What did the bad person do? And we try to kind of answer that while not being super specific, because we don't want to traumatize them. But, I reflect on, as we were leaving the gymnasium, there was a student behind us with his parents who was in tears, talking about how he never wanted to come back to that school again. There was another student in the gym who was caked with blood that I assume was proximate to the shooting as that was happening in the church. So, in addition to the 2 students who passed away and the others who were injured, I also think it's important to be mindful and, just be thinking about those students who were traumatized because of things that they saw at an age and in a place that you should never see things like that, and how those will be experiences that stick with them the rest of their lives. Thankfully, like I said, my kids were spared all of that. And so while they're kind of confused and certainly, have questions about what went on, I don't get the sense that they were traumatized or, are really going to have kind of lasting scars beyond obviously the stories that we will keep with us about that horrible day.
Absolutely. Aaron Rupar, I really appreciate you talking with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.